are live. We are live.
You are now live.
What is up, family?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome yet again
Yes.
on this here terrific Tuesday.
Terrific Tuesday, is it?
Yep.
It is a terrific Tuesday. I hope y'all are having a terrific Tuesday as well. So today, on today's, what do we call this? Marriedpreneur Live.
Yes.
This is who we're here for, or who we're really speaking with, because we've been talking to a lot of couples. Hey, lady, how are you? She's a doula.
Oh,
not
awesome.
too far from us too. So
Okay.
yeah, good to see you here on the live stream. So I think this is going to be helpful for you as well too, as you're transitioning into that space of doing the beautiful work of doulaship. I don't even know if doulaship is a word, but with that being said, we were talking before coming on to today's live to really hone in on how we can offer the most value as we come in on these Tuesdays. And one of the things that we realize is there are a lot of couples who are building businesses. Maybe like one spouse is building the business, or the other spouse is supporting that spouse in building the business, or maybe you're doing the business together.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter, but we're speaking to these marriedpreneurs, that there's a lot of traction, or a lot of not traction, but there's another T word I was saying, like trying. Trying. There's a lot of trying going on, but oftentimes the amount of traction does not equal the trying. So we really want to bring some insight and some daily insights from things that we've been implementing over the last 10 plus years as marriedpreneurs on this amazing journey. But real quick, let's do a introduction for those of you who may be joining us for the very, very first time.
What's up? I'm Ola Buckley.
And I'm Sway Buckley.
That's right. We are Marriedpreneur Life Strategists.
Yes, married entrepreneurs come to us to sync high-level systems with laser clear strategy to build out their businesses purposefully, powerfully, and profitably in sync. And so whether you are an indiepreneur, spousalpreneur, or couplepreneur, you are in the right place. In case you don't know what those are, the indiepreneurs are those couples where you're building maybe like two individual businesses, or maybe you're spousalpreneurs, and that's where one spouse is building the business while the other spouse is supporting the spouse who's building the business. And then we have the couplepreneurs. The
couplepreneurs, where you all are building the same business and you're doing it together.
Yes. So whether you're the indie, couple, spousal, entrepreneurs, whatever those marriedpreneur types, we want to let you know that you are in the right place. You are definitely welcome here on this here live.
In fact, while you're doing that, or while you're saying that, why don't you all go ahead and drop a C if you're a couplepreneur, an I if you're indiepreneur, or an S if you are a spousalpreneur.
Oh, in the comments. Yes, do let us know. We love to know. And also, I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna say. Well, I guess we can go on and share what we were sharing, but we do have some few announcements before I do that. So just in case you do not know, we have I would say a pretty dope podcast called Marriedpreneur Life. Marriedpreneur Life, you can find it on all listening platforms, and that is Marriedpreneur Life, just like the header here on your screen, wherever you're looking and viewing from. So you can take a listen to that. This past week, the latest episode is really all about doing business as believers in the kingdom of God, what that looks like versus the kingdom of this world. This culture is very, very different. And so we want to use that to encourage you all on your journey, wherever you are on that journey. But it's really good and gold stuff there. Also with that, as we mentioned, we are talking today about, okay, we have indiepreneur. Yep, I knew that from you. So we're talking to these couples today, or about couples rather, whether it's, you're the indiepreneur, spousalpreneur, couplepreneur, who have been in a situation where you are trying and you're not scared to execute. You're executing, you're doing what you need to do, but you really want to see the traction match the execution.
Yeah, you want to see yourself going forward rather than just simply staying afloat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're going to get into in this live today.
Yeah, so we were talking about, before going in here, about you gave an illustration that I thought you should share, because I think it will really like bring it in and hone into to what we're talking about today.
So, when you grow up in the city, we don't just have swimming pools in our, homes or places that we live oftentimes. So you have to go to like a community pool where you would be able to access uh, swimming facilities. So in doing that, a lot of times in the city, unless you take swimming lessons, it's not like you're going to the beach. And let me say more specifically, like where I'm from, which is Chicago's South Side, it's not like we go to the beach. Now we
No.
do have the lakefront. I will give you that, but not a lot of kids can make it to the lakefront. And the point being is that so a lot of times our exposure to being able to swim will come from some type of recreational facility or some type of community pool. And so oftentimes they will have lessons, but not a lot of kids could take the lessons for one reason or another.
Mm.
But everybody in the midst the heat would want to get into the pool. So it would be nothing to go to a pool and see, and I've seen this, where somebody's big brother or older sister or even dad, in one instance, would throw the child into the pool, and all of a sudden you would see this kid just doing everything they can, arms going everywhere, legs going everywhere, to just try and stay afloat. Now,
Mm.
here's what's interesting: when that child is able to stabilize themselves to some extent to be able to tread water and stay afloat, they get real excited about being able to stay afloat.
Mm.
Until it sets in, they can't go forward
And they're tired.
and they're tired. And a lot of
Yeah.
times, that is what happens when we as marriedpreneurs, we say, all right, we're going to start this business. We're going to step out there
Mm.
and we're getting some action,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of it, but action is not traction. And
Mm.
so we're doing all these things. We got a lot of activity going on,
Mm.
but then it dawns on us, hey, this is tiring and we're not going forward. We're just sort of staying afloat.
Treading water. Yeah, and that's what we want to talk about today when it comes to marriedpreneurs launching, growing, and even scaling a business. I think this stage is not only for those who are emerging that are just starting, but it really looks very, there are some similarities on different stages in this journey, especially those who are at the place of growing and then scaling even beyond the launching, because as you get to the next phase, this it's like deeper waters every time, right? But you bring to the table what you've already learned from the previous season for sure. And so, were you about to say something? And so, what we really want to do, just for a few moments, is share, we would say, like 3 daily tweaks that you can implement like today, right away, and start seeing some more traction. And really, that comes from clarity. Clarity always accelerates. Clarity always precedes acceleration. So, getting clear is going to be important. So, we want to just share these with you real quick and be on about our business and our day. And so, with the first one, you want to start off
Our
with
lunch,
our lunch. That's what you said.
which we'll be having right after this. Um, so yeah, when you think about executing, you're thinking
Mhm.
about getting traction. It can be like, all right, how does that happen? Well, here's
Mhm.
one of the first ways that getting that traction,
Mhm.
so you're not just flapping your arms and legs all over the place in business. While you
Mhm.
may have the ability to sort of stay afloat but not really go forward, the first thing that we have seen has been very helpful for us is,
Mhm.
and it took some time to realize this, to learn this, but
It's
it
subtle.
is separating the unrelated.
Mm.
So if I'm saying today is whatever the day of the week is, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what have
Mhm.
you, whatever the day of the week is, and this thing that we need to do today that's going to get us that forward motion in the business, we have to be able, and we've seen and learned that it's important to separate the
Mhm.
unrelated. Now, I did not
Yeah.
say unimportant
Yeah.
at some point, but I
Mhm.
said separate the unrelated
Mhm.
as it pertains to that step that must happen today.
Yeah, if I could say something really quickly with that, and that an example of that could be, it's really going to depend on where you are and what you all are doing, but just getting clear about like what would make today, like what would be a win for me today in business? What would be a win for us today in business? What does that look like in this season? Is it, some of you, it may be like, you know what, a win would be closing another client today, or a win would be just getting clear on my messaging today, or a win would be making 3 more offers today. Like, what would be a win in business for you today? Because if we're not clear on that, we'll get distracted, right?
Yeah, and some of them just need to follow up on that email opportunity that was extended. So it may just be that.
Sometimes, yeah. So being clear on that, and then not allowing distractions to weigh us down. So like that kid, that illustration, the kid thrown into the water. Unfortunately, hopefully he learned how to swim real quick. But he's treading water, but just imagine trying to tread water with like ankle weights on, or with weights on your wrist as well, and you're learning to swim at the same time. Like, sometimes we allow these things that don't matter right now, like you said, to get in the way, and then we start focusing on those things. So we're executing is not the issue, but it's like, well, are we executing in the right way, or are we executing the right thing? So we're thrown into the water, but are we executing with skill?
I would even
and
say,
technique?
and this just
Mhm.
occurred to me,
What's that?
that we may be confusing exertion with execution.
Oh,
So we may just be exerting a lot of energy,
things.
got a lot of stuff going on, but not really
Yeah.
hitting it the way,
Yeah.
and hitting the thing that needs to be
Mhm.
hit today. If I can use
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
expression.
So separating the unrelated is the
Yep.
first thing.
Separating the unrelated. The second thing is that has been very helpful. As you separate the unrelated, it'd be helpful for us is to then set up today's target. So we want to
Mhm.
set up the right target.
Mhm.
So it's not just setting up a bunch of targets or setting up a target, it's setting up the right one.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that can be defined as asking the question, what's going to bring results today?
Mhm.
What is the step that's going to bring about the result? And so
Yeah.
when we're thinking about that, that is what helps us identify
Mhm.
today's target.
Yeah, and I like to ask a similar question to that too, just like in my own head. I'm like constantly asking myself, is this the best use of my time? Like right now, is this the best use of my time? And that has really clarified some things to let me know, you know what, we need to be delegating that, or I need to be, outsourcing this, or you know what, it's not the best use. Like, I do need to do it, but do I need to be doing it right now? And
Or
just
it
that
may need to be done, but do I need to do it?
Right. That's where the delegating piece comes
Mhm.
in too. So those are just some simple but powerful clarifying questions at like that you can ask in the middle of the day, because sometimes we can just get all into it and we just like head in the sand, going. And there is a time for that. There's actually riches that come through that, because you can, and not just riches in the lowest sense, which is money, which is nice, but riches in the understanding and gaining that momentum and really growing in what it is that you're doing. But that's not like all the time, because if your head is in the sand and you're moving and you're exerting, but you're not exerting in the proper way or in the right way that's going to bring you in the right direction, then you look up and find yourself drained and disappointed, and oftentimes doubting if you're supposed to be doing a thing, which has nothing to do if you're supposed to be doing it or not. That has nothing to do with it. It's just that you're exerting versus really executing it.
Yeah. And a lot of times when I think about even going back to that pool example,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the exertion comes from not knowing where the child is swimming. And I remember even an early swim class that I took, the instructor would go to a certain point in the pool and then would say, all right, swim to me. So they
Right, the
became the target.
direction.
And they know that I
Yep.
didn't have enough conditioning to go the length of the pool.
Right.
So they would just back up a certain distance from me, a shorter one that was reasonable, and say, all right, swim to me. And that became the step to being able to go further. But when you're doing all that exertion, a lot of times, a lot of that exertion is because you don't know where you're swimming to. You don't know swim to where, right?
Yeah. So part of that is a skill. The other part is the awareness of where you are. I remember I used to be on the swim team in high school, and even as a younger, like in middle school as well too. And in the pool, initially in the pool, like when I used to do it at the Y, they didn't have like what do you call them? The lanes.
Yes.
We would just like race. We would just like race. There were
Mm-hmm.
no lanes. So you could end up on one. You can start on one end of the pool and then end up way on the other side, but you're going in the right direction, but kind of
Drifting.
Drifting.
Yeah.
But then as I started competing in college as a swimmer, I just did it for my freshman year, so it wasn't like a long time. But that was I mean, not in college, in high school, it was a different ballpark, right? So there were always lanes there. And what happened, we were more serious swimmers then. So when we were swimming, what would happen when we're, whether, especially if we're doing, what, I guess it doesn't matter really, whatever stroke that you're doing, because you're always going to be coming up, because you got to come up for air. That is the time to, of course, get some breath in your lungs, but also the time to see where you are in relation to your lane. And I remember starting out competing, and oftentimes I will be, I'll be racing, and I would find myself like hitting the dividers of the lane. I'm like, oh, let me come over. I'm over too far to the right, right? But I'm going in the right direction, but I'm drifting. And just having those dividers in there, or the lanes, so you can those guides make a huge difference as well too. And that's to help us stay in our lane.
Yeah, and by the way, those guides, and even where you were going, that meant that target had to be highly visible. It had to be crystal clear. So when you start to separate that stuff that's unrelated, then the target sort of emerges, and it's like, oh, that's where I need to go. So that's where I need to swim to and swim toward.
That's so good. Okay, and the last one, these are the three daily tweaks to really executing at a higher level as you all are building your business, whether you're indie spouse or couplepreneurs.
Yeah, so the third one would be, as you're considering all that you're doing, is to then situate the environment for high productivity. High productivity. And when we say environment, the immediate would be to think about the physical environment, and that's part of it, but there's other areas as well. There's the spiritual environment. So, for us, it's very important. One of the things that we do very early in the morning in our legacy meetings is that we pray, and we're together, and we're asking God for wisdom, for direction, for guidance, as it pertains to where do we need to go today? Where do we need to be focusing today? What's going to be the target today? And so when you're situating the environment, you want to consider it spiritually, you want to consider it mentally. And it's interesting that actually the spiritual affects the mental, but even it helps to stabilize the emotional. And sometimes you need that ongoing, because things can happen throughout the day that throws us off.
Things will happen throughout the day.
Things will happen that will throw us off.
Yeah, that can easily throw us off if we're not ready and not grounded. And also thinking about, let's talk about the mental environment too, when we're constantly maybe treading water, but then you're starting to actually swim. We have to realize during this, it's like a transition of gaining more and more skill, that as opportunities happen, and as we keep like calling our shot and taking the next step, that it's not always going to go in the way that we desire it to happen, because there are things that we're learning as we go. So when we are able to clarify and say, you know what, I'm not going to connect myself in the sense of like emotionally and mentally so deeply to the outcome of this step today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that step. I'm going to do it. I'm going to execute, but then I'm going to look and I'm going to back and I'm going to learn from it. So, okay, what went well with this? What can I do better with this when we do it again the next day or the next go round? But you're constantly going. Otherwise, what will happen is we end up giving ourselves these beat downs of thinking, having unclear and unrealistic expectations, and constantly looking maybe at others highlight reels and not understanding what has happened behind the scenes for them to actually, show what is being perceived in whatever platform that they're showing it. So I just want to, encourage everyone in that, as you're building that, just to be very mindful to separate yourself. Don't be so tied into it, because it's hard. It's hard because this is like your life's work in this season, and this is what you're doing. But it's definitely doable, just to be aware of, okay, I'm going to take the step. I'm going to keep executing. I'm going to keep learning in this, but I'm going to learn as I go, and not be so knocked out if it doesn't go the way that I expected in the time frame that I expected to happen, that I'm going to be able to bounce back, and I will do it, and I will do it quickly. Right. And just having that mindset and that mental dexterity, it is really key, because I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of talk about like just the mental exercises and pressure that can come with building a business, whether you're building it as one spouse or whether you're building it together. It will, and it does impact like how you live your life. It does impact how you do marriage, because you want to make sure that you are showing up as your best for marriage as well too. And so I think it's really important just to really guard and gird yourself as we are taking the steps each day, but just to be mindful of it, because life, it does, and it will happen. And 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 even allowing like the good things to as they happen as well, not to also be so connected and so deeply connected that we're tying that back to our value and our worth. We're like, great, that work, that's awesome, let's keep it moving, let's celebrate that, continue to celebrate it, but not even allow the mountains top seasons to define who we are. Right, like just really being very clear about that, because otherwise every day it's like, what version of you is going to show up, like is that predicated on how good you're feeling about this thing, or how not so good it's going, just really being clear about that. And I think that also ties back into the spiritual aspect of that as well too, situating that environment for high productivity, that spiritual, mental, emotional space, and then a physical,
so real.
Oh yeah, and then the physical space as well too. But what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say on the physical space, I know, and I say this lovingly. Some of us just need to clean off our desks.
Oh,
and I know what that's like. I know what that's like. So I'm saying I know what that's like. But
you've been doing a really good job.
Let
me shout him out real quick, y'all. Like, he's been doing a great job of clearing over your desk,
keeping my desk clean and clear.
I mean, because and
it's been helpful. It's been very helpful.
It was a struggle before, but it may still be a struggle, but you're doing it. I don't know if it's still a struggle or not. You're doing it like it's not a struggle. So I just want to congratulate you in front of the platforms here. So those are the 3 areas that we wanted to go over with y'all today. We're going to go grab some lunch. And if you're one of those marriedpreneur couples you're building, whether you're indie spouse or couplepreneurs, and you're wanting to even get more traction or more insight and guidance, we do have, and we've created a few different systems downloads specifically for married entrepreneurs. If that's you, we can send that to you. Just drop systems in the comments, or you can DM it to us. Because sometimes we don't see if it comes up right away, and it won't show up when the live comes up. I mean, when the replay comes up. So if you want that, we'll send that over to you. Just drop systems in the comments or the DMs, and you'll have either a profitability systems download or a productivity, but we'll talk about it so we can know which one that will serve you the best right now. Okay. So until next time, y'all,
keep living
purposefully,
powerfully,
and profitably in sync. All right. Peace out.